before the world wakes. A storm rages inside you, whispers of fear, waves of doubt, pressures that press too hard and shadows that linger too long. But in the stillness of this early hour, something greater is stirring. A divine voice is rising, stronger than the chaos, steadier than the fear, ready to break through the darkness and unleash a morning unlike any you've ever known. This is no ordinary dawn. This is the moment heaven steps into your storm, silences every wave, lifts every burden, and reveals the path you never saw coming. Get ready, because God's voice is about to quiet every storm today. Before the sun even considers rising, the world sits in a hush that feels almost unnatural. The streets are empty, the air is cool, and the first fragile hints of light stretch across the horizon like a promise waiting to be fulfilled. But beneath this quiet surface, millions wake with storm already raging inside them, an unseen forecast that no weather station reports. This morning, we turn our attention to the breaking news of the heart. Overnight, reports of growing emotional turbulence have intensified. Individuals across every walk of life are navigating high-pressure fronts of fear, doubt, and fatigue. Some describe it as a weight on the chest, others as a fog that refuses to lift. These inner storms strike, without warning, and often without mercy, leaving many unsure how to step into a new day with hope. Sources close to the situation reveal that the mental and spiritual atmosphere has been shifting for some time. Rising anxiety levels, mounting responsibilities, and relentless internal dialogue have created a perfect storm of overwhelm. Experts confirm that such storms often hit hardest in the early morning hours, when the mind is most vulnerable and the soul is most honest. But amidst the swirling chaos, new developments are emerging. Observers on the front lines report a stirring, subtle yet unmistakable, of anticipation. It's as though the winds themselves are waiting, pausing in expectation of something greater. A sense of holy tension builds in the stillness, hinting that intervention may be closer than it appears. Investigators monitoring the scene state that this rising expectation is not unfounded. Throughout history, breakthroughs have been known to arrive quietly, sometimes disguised in the very moments that feel the heaviest. And now, as dawn approaches, the atmosphere thickens with possibility. Something is shifting. Something is drawing near. And so, in this early hour, the headline becomes clear. A storm may be present, but it is not final. Every gust of fear and wave of doubt stands on the brink of encountering a force far greater than itself. A voice, steady, divine, commanding, prepares to speak into the chaos. This is the scene before the intervention. This is the moment before God quiets every storm. In the latest update from our ongoing coverage of the internal storms sweeping across the early morning soulscape, new movement has been detected. As our team continues to monitor the emotional pressure systems identified in Chapter 1, an unexpected atmospheric shift is now unfolding overhead. A shift so profound it appears to be coming from beyond the visible horizon. Viewers just waking up should understand. Something unprecedented is approaching, and it carries the unmistakable signature of heaven. At approximately first light level, analysts began noticing a thinning in the cloud mass of doubt. Though subtle, the change was consistent. The heaviness that blanketed hearts in the previous hour now shows early signs of disruption, not from within, but from above. A faint radiance, barely perceptible yet undeniably real, seems to be pressing downward, as though a divine presence is leaning closer to the situation. Witnesses on the ground, some still reeling from their private storms, report moments of stillness breaking through their tension like unexpected pockets of warm air. These brief pauses, described by one source as a breath I didn't know I was waiting for, suggest a precursor to intervention. Meteorologists trained in spiritual phenomena confirm that such calm often precedes the arrival of a commanding voice. Further investigation reveals heightened activity in what observers are calling the upper realms. Though difficult to measure with standard instruments, the shift carries a pattern of deliberate movement, purposeful, powerful, and unmistakably intelligent. Experts familiar with divine operations indicate this formation resembles earlier historical events when God's voice broke into human turbulence, altering entire landscapes with a single command. The intensity is building. Reports from multiple regions show that hearts previously overwhelmed by pressure are now experiencing an unfamiliar anticipation. It is as though the soul itself recognizes the approach of the one who once spoke light into darkness. The same voice, sources affirm, that shaped galaxies with syllables, is now drawing near to address the personal chaos individuals have been battling alone. In a developing statement from spiritual observers, it has been confirmed that heaven is not merely observing the storm. Heaven is preparing to engage. The silence grows heavy, almost reverent, as though creation itself is holding its breath. Authorities on divine communication advise that this type of silence is rarely empty. It is a silence that comes just before a breakthrough. Multiple reports now indicate that the pressure within these internal storms has begun to lose authority. The winds of fear falter. The waves of anxiety hesitate. These disturbances appear to be responding, instinctively, to the presence of something greater, as if they already know the power of the voice approaching them. Storms may rage boldly, but even storms know when a higher command steps onto the scene. Across the landscape of the human heart, tremors of expectancy spread. Individuals who moments ago felt lost within their emotional uproar are now pausing, listening, sensing that help is not just coming, it is near. Some describe the moment as electric, others as holy, but all agree the atmosphere is thick with divine proximity. And now, in breaking news from the spiritual watchtower, early indicators show the first movement of heaven's intervention. A stirring, low and resonant, begins to form, like the sound before thunder, but carrying peace instead of destruction. It is the whisper before command, the breath before the decree, the signal that the voice of God is preparing to speak. Stay tuned. The storm may have dominated the night, but daylight brings something far more powerful than chaos. The next word spoken, his words, have the potential to silence every wave, still every wind, and bring order to every heart. The intervention is moments away. Authorities monitoring the unfolding spiritual weather event have issued a major update. The anticipated intervention hinted at in Chapter 2 is no longer a distant possibility. It is happening now. Moment ago, a shift of extraordinary magnitude swept across the atmosphere, signaling that the voice of God has entered the scene. The storm that once roared with unchecked force is now facing a command unlike any it has encountered before. Initial reports confirm that as a divine presence descended, the very air responded. Witnesses describe the moment as a sudden atmospheric tightening, followed by an overwhelming surge of authority that washed across the soul like a tidal wave of calm. The longest night of inner turmoil now stands face to face with the one who speaks worlds into being. Sources on the ground recount a dramatic stilling effect, similar to watching raging waters freeze mid-motion. The winds of fear, which moments earlier shrieked with intensity, appear to have lost their voice entirely. Listeners attuned to the spiritual frequency report hearing a single phrase echoing with unmistakable clarity. Peace, be still. Though spoken softly, the impact was seismic. Experts in divine manifestation state that these words carry a force beyond human comprehension. The same decree that once halted a violent sea in ancient reports has now been released again, this time into the emotional and mental storms plaguing millions. Specialists confirm this level of authority is something only God himself can exercise, and its effects are already measurable. New data shows a breathtaking transformation unfolding within the storm's core. Anxiety, previously swirling at high velocity, has slowed to an almost complete stop. Doubt, once towering like dark waves, now collapses beneath the weight of divine command. Even the silent internal pressures, those hidden unspoken burdens, are loosening their grip. Observers call it nothing short of miraculous. Residents of the inner landscape, many weary from long nights of unrest, are reporting a sudden lightness in the soul. One witness described the sensation as hearing the world exhale. Another reported feeling a warmth in the chest, as though a divine hand had been placed gently over their heart. Uniformly, they testify that the moment God spoke, something broke, and in its breaking, peace spilled in. Correspondents on the emotional shoreline note that the sky within the spirit is changing rapidly. The storm clouds of worry are lifting, revealing something that looks remarkably like clarity. A faint glow, golden, steady, unwavering, now rises from beneath the horizon of the soul, signaling that the worst is past and dawn is approaching. Meanwhile, analysts examining the spiritual aftershocks confirm that chaos is not merely retreating. It is retreating in obedience. Fear has not wandered off. It has bowed. Doubt has not faded. It has submitted. These storms appear unable to resist the authority of the voice that confronted them. The command, "Peace, be still," has not just calmed the atmosphere. It has redefined it. Emergency response teams dedicated to soul restoration report a remarkable drop in internal distress signals. Hearts that felt fractured hours ago now beat with new steadiness. Minds once tangled in confusion report newfound clarity. And perhaps most astonishing, spirits once weighed down are rising with renewed strength. Everything points to a single conclusion. Peace is no longer a visitor. It is taking residence. And so, this chapter closes with a headline no storm ever hoped to see. Chaos has been silenced by divine decree. What once threatened to consume the morning has now been transformed into a testament of God's absolute authority. The voice that calmed the sea has spoken again, and nothing in its path dared to resist. The storm has met its match. The calm has begun. In the wake of the divine command released in Chapter 3, our newsroom is now tracking unprecedented developments across the spiritual landscape. The once violent storm, struck silent by the words "Peace, be still," is undergoing rapid restructuring. Analysts confirm that this is no temporary lull. This is a forced retreat. The tide has turned, and every storm system is now realigning under the authority of God's voice. New observations reveal that the internal winds of fear, moments ago chaotic and uncontrollable, are now withdrawing in absolute obedience. This is not a slow dissipation, but a decisive collapse, as though the storm itself recognizes a higher sovereignty. Specialists reviewing the energy signatures note that fear behaves differently in the presence of divine authority. It doesn't negotiate, it surrenders. Meanwhile, the waves of anxiety that tower like giants are receding with remarkable speed. Reports indicate these waves are not merely calming but flattening, as if pressed down by an invisible hand. Witnesses describe the sudden quiet as unnatural in the most miraculous way, a silence that carries power rather than emptiness. Investigators monitoring the emotional terrain report a shift in pressure levels. The overwhelming weight that once pressed upon hearts is lifting, revealing an atmosphere growing lighter and more breathable by the minute. Some describe an almost electric sensation of clarity, replacing the previous haze, like stepping out of the storm shelter into unexpected sunlight. Updates from spiritual response teams affirm that deeper internal storms, those hidden beneath the surface, are also being dismantled. Burdens long carried in silence are loosening their grip. Trauma-triggered winds are weakening. Guilt-laden clouds are dissipating. It appears that no storm, no matter how deeply rooted, can withstand the authority that has now been released. One field correspondent shared a striking testimonial from an individual on the front lines. It wasn't just the storm around me that quieted. It was the storm inside me. When God spoke, something broke. And when it broke, I felt free. Similar accounts continue to flood in, forming a pattern impossible to ignore. Experts on divine intervention are now issuing an official statement. Every storm, spiritual, emotional, mental, must obey the voice of the Lord. There is no resistance, no defiance, no storm too powerful or ancient. The voice that calms seas also calms souls, and the result is universally the same: submission, stillness, and peace. As the situation continues to unfold, satellite readings from the spiritual realm show a rising glow at the center of each once raging storm. This glow signifies restoration and progress. Peace is not simply returning. It is expanding, reclaiming territories previously held hostage by fear. The storm's retreat is revealing landscapes of hope previously hidden beneath the turbulence. Correspondents monitoring the perimeter now report profound change in the atmosphere. What was once tense, heavy, and unpredictable is now stabilizing. The air feels charged with purpose. The emotional horizon is widening. Something new is forming in the space where chaos once ruled, a sense of order, security, and divine protection growing stronger by the second. And finally, our headline for this hour captures the magnitude of what is unfolding. The storms that once threatened to break you are now bowing before the one who holds all authority. The tide has turned. The atmosphere has shifted. What once roared in defiance now retreats in silence. The storm had its moment, but God has the final word. In the aftermath of the storm's dramatic surrender reported in Chapter 4, our newsroom is now witnessing a new and unexpected surge across the spiritual landscape. Where chaos once ruled, stability is forming, solid, unmoving, unshakable. Analysts describe the shift as the rise of an inner anchor, a force of divine strength settling deep within the soul. It appears the voice that calmed the storm is now fortifying those who endured it. Early reports show that individuals emerging from the storm's retreat are experiencing an unusual sensation. Not just relief, but rising confidence. The peace that spread moments ago has begun rooting itself firmly, creating a foundation more stable than anything previously recorded. The soul is no longer reacting to the storm. It is now standing steady despite it. Witnesses in multiple regions are reporting a holy weight settling on inside, a peace so tangible it feels almost physical. Some describe it as a warm heaviness in the chest, others as a quiet boldness spreading through their thoughts. Experts confirm this is consistent with what spiritual meteorologists call anchor formation, the moment divine peace transforms from an external calm into an internal force. As the atmosphere stabilizes, investigators have noted a striking phenomenon. The very areas once vulnerable to attack are now becoming strongholds of resilience. Fear's former entry points are sealing shut. Anxiety's influence is diminishing. Doubt's footholds are collapsing. It is as though the storm's retreat created space for strength to rise, and rise it has swiftly, profoundly, undeniably. One correspondent station in the Heart Center region reports measurable increases in spiritual fortitude. It's like watching a city rebuild itself and fast forward. They reported, the foundations are stronger than they were before the storm. Something is being restored and reinforced. Similar reports are coming in from minds, emotions, and even long-neglected corners of the soul. Experts analyzing this development confirm a powerful pattern. When God speaks peace, he does not merely remove the storm. He strengthens the one who stood in it. What was once fragile is becoming fortified. What was once shaken is becoming steady. The anchor forming within hearts is no ordinary anchor. It is secure by divine authority and cannot be moved. Further updates reveal a rising clarity spreading across the internal landscape. Thoughts once clouded by worry are clearing like fog lifting from a valley. Decisions once paralyzed by doubt now feel uncomplicated. Even breathing seems easier. Witnesses say it feels like light entering every corner of the soul, revealing peace where panic once lived. Correspondents also note the return of something many had not felt in a long time. Hope, not a tentative, fragile hope, but a bold, glowing expectation that the day ahead will be guided, protected, and infused with purpose. This hope appears to be radiating outward from the new internal anchor, influencing emotions, outlook, and even physical posture. As the morning continues to brighten, analysts report that the strengthening is not slowing. It is accelerating. Hearts are stabilizing. Minds are settling. Spirits are rising. And with each passing moment, the anchor holds tighter, rooting the individual in a peace that storms cannot shake and circumstances cannot steal. And so, our final headline for this hour is clear. The storm may have tried to break you, but God has used it to build you. What once threatened your peace has now become the backdrop for your strengthening. The anchor is set. The soul is steady. And a new kind of strength, heaven-grown, God-given, storm-tested, is rising from within. Following the extraordinary rise of inner strength documented in Chapter 5, our newsroom is now witnessing the next major development in this unfolding spiritual event. As the anchor of divine peace settles firmly within hearts, a new phenomenon is emerging across the landscape. Light. Not symbolic light, not metaphorical light, but profound brilliance breaking over the waters of the soul. What was once shadowed by internal storms is now glowing with the first rays of holy dawn. Satellite readings taken moments ago from the spiritual horizon show the darkness retreating at unprecedented speed. This is not the slow fade typical of morning. This is a sudden dispersal, as though the night realizes it no longer has permission to linger. Analysts report that such rapid illumination can only occur when divine presence is actively advancing. The light is not just arriving, it is pursuing the darkness. Witnesses positioned along the emotional shoreline described the sight as breathtaking. One source shared, "It's like the sun rose inside me before it rose outside." Another recounted a moment of sudden clarity, comparing it to a lighthouse coming alive after years of silence. These reports indicate that light is not merely touching the surface. It is reaching into hidden depths previously untouched by hope. Investigators are also picking up strong readings of renewed vision across multiple regions. Individuals are beginning to see forward again. The paths that once seemed obscured by fear are now visible, marked by warm golden beams that guide rather than blind. Experts note that this kind of illumination is strategic. Divine light doesn't just reveal, it directs. Meanwhile, spiritual response teams analyzing the inner environment are reporting a dramatic rise in warmth, the kind associated with divine reassurance. Cold spaces where hopelessness once resided are thawing. Emotional numbness is melting away. Hearts that once beat in survival mode are awakening to the promise of purpose. It is dawn not just around them, but within them. Correspondents stationed near the Soul Sea now confirm that the waters themselves, once storm-torn and chaotic, are shimmering with a calmness that defies explanation. The surface reflects not fear, but light, steady gold and unbroken. Even the remnants of the storm can be seen dissolving, leaving no trace of the chaos that once dominated the scene. Experts on spiritual climate shifts emphasize that such light is more than symbolic victory. It represents divine governance. When God's light rises after a storm, it signifies not only peace restored, but order reinstated. The heart is no longer a battlefield, but a sanctuary. The mind is no longer a battleground, but a place of clarity. The dawn is not decorative. It is authoritative. Reports also indicate a widespread awakening of gratitude. Individuals who just hours ago were struggling through darkness are now moved deeply by the sudden brilliance. Tears are being shed, not from fear, but from relief, from awe, from the realization that God did not just calm the storm. He stayed to bring the morning. The presence that brought peace is now bringing beauty. As the dawn strengthens, analysts predict this light will continue to spread, illuminating paths, renewing minds, and revealing opportunities that the storm had concealed. This is not the light of a normal day. This is resurrection light, a divine signal that new beginnings are unfolding even as the morning breaks. And so, our headline for this hour reflects the magnitude of what is taking place. The night has been defeated, and the dawn has been commanded by God himself. The storm has passed, the anchor holds, and now the light rises, not timidly, but triumphantly. Morning has arrived, and with it comes a promise that God's peace will guide every step forward. In the wake of the radiant dawn reported in Chapter 6, our newsroom is now tracking a powerful new development sweeping across the spiritual landscape. As light settles on the waters and clarity fills the horizon, individuals who once trembled under the storm are now stepping forward with rising boldness. Analysts are calling this the activation phase, the moment when inner peace transforms into outward courage. And according to early indicators, this courage is not ordinary. It is supernatural. Moments ago, observers stationed across the emotional coastline reported a sudden surge of forward momentum. Hearts once hesitant to move are now leaning into the day as though propelled by an unseen force. Experts confirm this shift is consistent with historical accounts of divine empowerment, when peace does not merely comfort but commissions. The same voice that stilled the storm is now calling individuals out onto the waters of their day. Witnesses on the scene describe an unexpected confidence rising within them, steady, exhilarating, and strangely familiar. One source reported, "It's like the fear that once froze me is now gone. Not reduced, not quiet, gone. And something inside me is saying, step." Multiple reports echo similar experiences, suggesting that courage is spreading like a spiritual wildfire in the wake of divine dawn. Investigative teams monitoring the soul's surface have confirmed unusual activity. Hearts are beginning to take risks again. Goals abandoned during the storm are resurfacing with new life. Dreams buried under waves of doubt are reopening like long-shut windows. The once storm-tossed waters, now calm and illuminated, appear to be inviting movement fueled by faith rather than fear. Correspondents stationed along the boundary of possibility region report that many individuals are stepping onto symbolic waters they never dared touch before. These waters, previously seen as too unstable or unpredictable, now feel navigable, walkable. The presence that calmed the chaos now empowers their steps. Experts emphasize that this is not reckless confidence. It is divinely supported action. Spiritual analysts observe that this surge of courage originates not from external circumstances, but from the strengthened anchor within. The internal stability built in Chapter 5 now acts like a spiritual engine pushing individuals beyond what was previously possible. Courage doesn't feel forced, one witness noted. It feels natural, like it was waiting inside me for this moment. Meanwhile, emotional mapping teams are reporting a dramatic decrease in hesitation signals. Where fear once dictated decisions, boldness is rewriting the script. Paths ahead appear less intimidating and more purposeful. The combination of divine peace, inner strength, and rising light is creating perfect conditions for forward movement. Conditions experts say are rare and powerful. In several regions, the waters themselves seem to respond to this newfound courage. Witnesses describe a sensation of being held up, supported, and carried as they move forward. Some report the impression of invisible arms steadying their steps, while others speak of an assurance so strong it feels like walking with a guide who cannot fail. This level of confidence is unprecedented in the aftermath of such a storm. Experts reviewing the overall landscape conclude that individuals are not merely recovering, they are advancing. They are walking on what once threatened to drown them. They are stepping into territories previously blocked by fear. They are living in the confidence that comes from divine partnership. This is not just healing. It is transformation. And so, our headline for this hour captures the magnitude of this shift. In a stunning development following the triumphant conclusion of Chapter 8, our newsroom now turns its attention to the aftershock of victory, a phenomenon unfolding in the hearts of those who just declared their final amen. What happens after the storm has been silenced, after dawn is broken, after courage is risen, and after victory has been proclaimed? Early reports indicate something remarkable. The atmosphere continues to shift. The story is not ending. It is evolving. Moment ago, analysts observing the spiritual landscape detected the emergence of what they are calling a victory current, a sustained flow of divine strength that continues to move long after the final amen was spoken. Witnesses say it feels like the lingering warmth of sunlight long after the sun has risen, an assurance that what God has done is not momentary, but enduring. Correspondents stationed across the Heart's interior report that the peace established earlier is not merely holding, it is deepening. Roots of tranquility are reaching further into the soul, solidifying the foundation built in the previous chapters. One observer described it as peace that keeps multiplying, growing stronger with each passing moment. In what experts are calling the post-storm phenomenon, individuals are noticing a new spiritual sharpness, an ability to sense God's presence with heightened clarity. The same voice that calmed the storm now whispers direction, comfort, and assurance as individuals step into their day. It seems victory has not only quieted the storm, it has opened the ears of the soul. Investigators monitoring the emotional corridors report that joy, a quiet, radiant joy, is beginning to surface like rising tidewater. This joy is not shallow or fleeting. It is steady, anchored by everything God has done. Witnesses describe it as morning joy, the kind that Scripture promises will come after a long night. And now it has arrived in full force. Meanwhile, spiritual response teams are documenting an unexpected surge in purpose. Individuals who once struggled to take even small steps during the storm are now moving with clarity and intention. Goals align, dreams sharpen. The future feels less like an uncertainty and more like a calling. Victory has not only restored peace, it has reignited destiny. Correspondents of the faith frontier confirm that this newfound purpose is spilling outward. Individuals are beginning to influence their surroundings with the peace they carry. Conversations feel different. Decisions come from a place of strength rather than fear. Even the atmosphere around them seems to shift. Victory, it appears, is contagious. Experts analyzing this growing influence state that storms often leave behind residue, but divine victory leaves behind radiance. Those once overwhelmed are now becoming beacons. Their faith stands taller. Their courage walks further. Their presence brings calm. They are no longer defined by the storm they face, but by the God who rescued them from it. In a development both unexpected and powerful, individuals are beginning to report a new type of boldness, less dramatic than the surge in Chapter 7, but deeper, steadier, and more enduring. It is the boldness of those who know that God is not only the one who saves, but the one who stays. With him beside them, every step forward carries supernatural assurance. And now, the headline for this post-victory special report becomes clear. The Amen was not the end. It was the beginning of a new way of walking. The storm is gone. The peace remains. The light continues to rise. And courage now matures into confidence. Victory is not just a moment in the morning. It is the atmosphere of the entire day ahead. In the latest update following the expansive post-victory transformation revealed in Chapter 9, our newsroom is now tracking a monumental shift described by analysts at the opening of the heavens. With the storm silenced, peace anchored, courage activated, and victory established, the day is now unfolding under conditions unlike any previously recorded. What began as survival has now matured into supernatural living. Just a moment ago, correspondent stationed across the spiritual skyline detected a significant atmospheric elevation. The heavens, previously perceived as distant during the storm, are now reported to be unusually close, almost tangible. Witnesses describe the sensation as walking beneath a sky that is not merely above them, but with them. Experts confirm this signals the beginning of what they call open heaven living. Observers on the ground report a rising awareness of divine activity. Small moments, once dismissed as coincidence, are now recognized as intentional touches of God's guidance. Conversations unfold with unexpected grace. Doors open without effort. Internal nudges lead to surprising breakthroughs. The same voice that calmed the storm now directs each step with gentle precision. Investigators analyzing emotional dynamics confirm an unprecedented stability in the soul's ecosystem. Peace continues to deepen. Strength continues to rise. Hope continues to flourish. The internal climate, once volatile and unpredictable, now resembles a serene sunrise spreading warmth and clarity across every internal horizon. Correspondents at the Purpose Corridor now report measurable acceleration. Individuals are not simply walking forward. They are moving with momentum, as though carried by divine wind. Tasks feel lighter. Responsibilities feel manageable. Even challenges present themselves less as obstacles and more as opportunities for God to reveal his presence once again. Meanwhile, spiritual authorities monitoring this movement highlight a surprising new development. Favor signals are spiking across multiple regions. These signals indicate supernatural alignment, moments when circumstances bend toward blessing, relationships shift into harmony, and resources appear exactly when needed. Witnesses describe this as walking in prepared places, a hallmark of life under an open heaven. In several emotional sectors, joy levels are climbing to levels unseen in previous chapters. This joy is not explosive but radiant, steady, glowing, and contagious. Analysts describe it as confident joy, the kind that flows from knowing the storm's behind. Victory is secured, and God's presence remains ongoing. This joy acts as fuel for the day, infusing even ordinary moments with extraordinary meaning. Correspondents stationed on the spiritual perimeter report growing evidence of divine companionship, the sense that individuals are not facing the day alone. Many report feeling carried, guided, or held. Others describe a peace that whispers direction, a comfort that wraps around decision-making, and a confidence that does not crumble under pressure. This companionship appears to be an extension of the victory established earlier. Experts reviewing long-range projections suggest that today is not merely the first day after the storm. It is the first day of a new spiritual era. Patterns of breakthrough, clarity, and divine alignment are expected to continue, shaping not just the morning but the entire trajectory of the day. Analysts agree. Heaven is not just near, it is actively involved. And so, the headline for this chapter captures the essence of what is unfolding. The storm is gone, the victory stands, and the heavens are now open over every step you take. This is no ordinary day. This is the day shaped by peace, propelled by courage, crowned with victory, and guided by God's continual presence. Following the extraordinary emergence of open heaven conditions documented in Chapter 10, Our newsroom is now tracking a spectacular escalation across the spiritual landscape. Experts are calling it the March of Miracles, a rare movement that occurs when heaven does not merely oversee the day, but actively advances ahead of it. According to early data, this is not just divine presence. This is divine momentum. Just moments ago, analysts positioned at the future threshold detected unusual activity. Pathways that were once obscured or blocked are now opening with astonishing speed. Doors that remained shut for years are swinging wide. Obstacles that once demanded immense effort are collapsing like weakened structures in the wake of a mighty wind. Witnesses describe it as watching breakthroughs walk toward me before I even take a step. Correspondents stationed near developing storylines in individuals' lives report what they are calling miracle markers, early signs that God is arranging encounters, connections, and solutions long before the need even arises. Analysts compare the pattern to a commander clearing a battlefield before the soldiers arrive. Strategic, powerful, and purposeful. Independent witnesses have come forward with stories of sudden clarity in decision-making. Answers that once felt inaccessible now arrive effortlessly, almost as if whispered directly into the mind. Questions that cause anxiety now carry peace. Problems that previously drained energy now dissolve under the weight of divine strategy. Experts confirm this phenomenon aligns perfectly with open heaven movement patterns. Investigators monitoring emotional shift report that faith is rising with unprecedented force. This is no longer defensive faith, the kind needed to survive a storm. This is offensive faith, the kind that steps boldly into territory previously avoided. One witness described it as, "I'm not just walking into my day. I'm walking into God's preparation." Others echoed the same, calling it a confidence I've never known. Meanwhile, spiritual mapping teams have discovered what they call regions of accelerated blessing. These regions appear along the very paths individuals are about to walk, suggesting that miracles are not random occurrences, but strategically placed gifts waiting to be encountered. Analysts confirm this is common when victory transitions into divine advancement. Correspondents stationed in the relationship sector report unexpected reconciliation, favor, and alignment. People who were previously distant are now reappearing with open hearts. Opportunities that once slipped away are resurfacing with renewed clarity. Even strained environments are softening, as though a divine hand has smoothed tension and sown peace in advance. Experts at the Provision Watchtower have noted remarkable activity as well. Resources long delayed are now arriving early. Needs are being met before they are spoken. Support systems are aligning without deliberate effort. Witnesses describe this as walking into prepared abundance, a hallmark of God moving ahead of his people. Reports from the calling corridor reveal a powerful truth. Individuals are not merely being blessed, they are being positioned. Miracles are not just happening for them, they are happening around them, shaping their path, influencing their future, and confirming their assignment. Analysts say this positioning is intentional. It marks the beginning of divine orchestration on a higher level. And so, the headline for this chapter strikes with the weight of holy certainty. God is no longer just calming storms behind you. He is clearing the path before you. Breakthroughs are marching toward you. Miracles are aligning around you. Favor is building ahead of you. The day is unfolding not only under an open heaven, but with heaven taking the lead. What was once a battle is now a procession of divine purpose. The storm is behind you. The victory is within you. The miracles are before you. From the first tremors of the storm to the final eruption of divine revelation, the entire journey has unfolded like the breaking of a supernatural dawn. Fear giving way to faith, chaos bowing to God's voice, storm silenced, victory secured, heavens opened, miracles marching ahead, encounters erupting in the present, glory rising to transform everything it touches, and finally a radiant light exposing truth, purpose, and destiny with blinding brilliance. What began in darkness has ended in revelation. What began with trembling has concluded with triumph. Over every step, every battle, every breath, God has proven not only present, but powerful, intentional, and victorious. This is the epic conclusion. The storm has bowed, the morning has risen, and God's voice has led you all the way from trembling night into unstoppable dawn.